If you told me a year ago that I'd marry my best friend, I would have laughed in your face. Not because the idea was ridiculous, but because it felt impossible. Madison and I, we were chaos and comfort, jokes and midnight talks. But love? Real, forever kind of love? That wasn't in the cards. Or so I thought. Now here I am, standing at the altar, my heart hammering like it's trying to break out of my chest. The room is silent, except for the soft rustle of fabric as guests shift in their seats. I can feel every eye on me, some smiling politely, some whispering behind forced grins, some just confused. Then the music starts. Low, haunting. Not the usual happy wedding tune, but something softer, slower, like a farewell dressed as a beginning. I look up, and there she is, Madison, my best friend since middle school. The girl who once punched a guy for making me cry in gym class. The woman who knows every scar on my body. And how I got them. She walks slowly, her white dress hugging her like a secret. Her hair falls in waves, wild but controlled, just like her. And her eyes. God, her eyes. I've never seen them like that before. Not sad, not excited, just unreadable. Flashbulbs pop like tiny explosions, capturing this moment that feels more like a dream than reality. Or maybe a nightmare I haven't woken up from yet. As she gets closer, I glance around the room. My mom looks pale. My dad won't stop checking his watch. Her aunt, who always adored me, won't even meet my eyes. And her little brother, Luke, he's gripping the pew, so tight his knuckles are white. What the hell is going on? Madison finally reaches me, and for a second, it's just us. Everyone else disappears. The noise fades. The air thins. She takes my hand. It's ice cold. I whisper, "You okay?" She nods, once, but doesn't smile. The officiant starts speaking, but I barely hear a word. My head's spinning with questions. I try to focus on Madison, on this huge moment, but something's off. Something's wrong. When he gets to the vows, Madison hesitates. Not for long. Just a beat, a flicker, but I see it, and that 1 second feels like an hour. I say mine first. Easy, honest, raw. I've known you since we were kids, Madison. And every chapter of my life, you were there. I never thought we'd be here like this. But now that we are, I can't imagine anything else. I love you, not just as a friend, not just as a partner. I love you as the one person who makes sense in this crazy world. People smile. Some even tear up. Then it's her turn. She opens her mouth, but no sound comes out. My stomach drops. Then she speaks, her voice low and careful. Tyler, you've always been there for me. Through everything, you've seen every ugly part of me. And yet, you stayed. I didn't think I'd ever be the one walking toward you in a white dress. But here I am. A pause. She blinks back tears. I promise to always be honest with you, even when the truth hurts. What? That line, it slices through me. People clap politely when we kiss, but I feel none of it. I don't even feel her lips. Just that one sentence. Even when the truth hurts. Later, we walk back down the aisle, hand in hand, smiling for pictures, posing for 100 strangers, and a few friends who suddenly feel like strangers too. And the whole time, I can't shake it. What truth? What hurt? Why did this feel like an ending when it was supposed to be beginning? Growing up in a small town where everybody knew everybody's business before you even finished living it, Madison was the one person who felt like home. We met before we even knew what friendship meant. Just two toddlers chasing butterflies in the sandbox behind my mom's apartment complex. She wore pigtails and had a gap-toothed smile that made even the sun look shy. From the very beginning, we just fit. Bike rides through the sleepy streets of our neighborhood. Slumber parties where we stayed up whispering about school crushes and future dreams. Those moments made up the fabric of my childhood. Madison was always there. For scraped knees, broken toys, and even more broken hearts. I remember the night in 7th grade when I found out my dog, Max, had been hit by a car. I didn't cry in front of my parents. I just ran straight to Madison's house, climbed through her window like I always did, and collapsed into her lap. She didn't say anything, just held me until I couldn't cry anymore. She always knew when to speak and when silence said more. People joke we were just rehearsing for marriage. Teachers, neighbors, even our parents used to say it was only a matter of time. They'll get married after college. They chuckle. It's obvious. But it wasn't obvious to me, because somewhere between my junior and senior year of high school, everything shifted. Madison was still my best friend, still the one who understood every version of me. But my heart started beating differently for someone else. Her name was Vanessa. She was new, mysterious, the kind of girl who didn't wait for doors to be opened. She kicked them in and owned every room she walked into. And while Madison felt like comfort, like warm cocoa on a cold night, Vanessa felt like fire, like a spark I couldn't ignore. I didn't tell Madison right away. Part of me felt guilty, like I was cheating on a future we never agreed to, but that everyone else had already written for us. So I tried to ignore what I felt, buried it, smiled through the guilt when Madison looped her arm through mine in the school hallway, or saved me the last cookie at lunch. But Vanessa made it impossible to keep pretending. Every glance, every conversation felt like gravity pulling me closer. The night I told Madison I had feelings for someone else, she didn't say a word. Her eyes searched mine, probably hoping I was kidding. When I said the name, Vanessa, she nodded once. Just once. Then looked away. We never talked about it again, but something changed. Not in a dramatic, soap opera kind of way. More like the quiet kind, the heartbreaking kind. The late-night text stopped. She stopped leaving me voice memos about her dreams. Her smile, once automatic around me, now felt forced, like she was trying to hold something together that had already cracked. I still had her, technically. She didn't walk away. But it felt like I was losing her a little more each day. Funny how you could be someone's everything for years and then become a stranger just because your heart made a different choice. But at the time, I told myself it was okay, that this was just growing up. People change. Feelings shift. I thought I could hold on to both. Madison's friendship and Vanessa's fire, I had no idea that loving one would mean destroying the other. And what I really didn't know was how deep Madison's silence would cut when the truth finally came out. Because there was one thing I hadn't realized yet. Madison hadn't just been my best friend. She had been in love with me all along. I still remember the first time I saw her. Vanessa, she walked into that literature class like she owned the air around her. Dark hair cascading over one shoulder. Confidence in every step. Eyes that carried storms and secrets. The kind of girl who doesn't just walk into your life. She crashes into it, like a wave you don't see coming until it's already pulled you under. And God, I let myself drown. We met over coffee after class. Then again in the library. Then again at midnight walks that turn into sunrise talks. Vanessa made the world feel like it was finally in color. Like before her, I'd been living in grayscale. She was fire and honey and madness, and I loved her recklessly. But Madison always had this way of seeing through the noise. She was my best friend, the one who watched my back even when I didn't deserve it. She told me once, quietly, while we sat on a campus lawn, "She's not good for you, you know that, right?" I laughed it off, thought she was jealous. Maybe, or just didn't understand. But Madison wasn't jealous. She was right. Vanessa and I moved fast. Too fast. Within a year, we were living together. Within 2, I had a ring in my pocket. She cried when I proposed. Said I made her feel like she was finally safe. I believed her. God, I believed every word that came out of her mouth. Then came that night. The night everything unraveled. It was supposed to be a surprise. Vanessa's birthday. She thought I had a late shift, but I'd come home early with flowers and her favorite takeout. I was smiling like an idiot, fumbling with the keys, thinking about how I was going to spend the rest of my life loving this woman. The door was unlocked. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she stepped out. Then I heard it. Laughter. Hers. And a voice, his voice. My brother, Caleb. They were in the bedroom. I didn't want to believe it. I froze there in the hallway. Every heartbeat screaming louder than the last. Then I heard her moan his name. That was when the ground beneath me collapsed. I don't remember walking into the room. I just remember the look on her face when she saw me. Shock, regret, but not shame. Not really. And Caleb. He couldn't even look me in the eye. She started talking, crying, saying it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything. But you don't accidentally sleep with someone, especially not the man who shares my blood. I dropped the food on the floor and walked out. I didn't yell, didn't throw a single punch. My silence was louder than anything I could have said. Vanessa chased after me, barefoot in the street, sobbing. But I didn't turn around, because in that moment, something inside me broke. Something deep. And once it broke, I knew it wasn't coming back. It wasn't just about betrayal. It was about everything she took with her in that moment. My trust, my future, the version of me that believed love was enough. Madison was the one who picked up the pieces. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just sat next to me on the curb at 3 a.m., handed me a coffee, and let me fall apart without judgment. Vanessa tried to call. A lot. I deleted every message without listening. And Caleb? He was dead to me. I wish that was the end of the story. But when you break something as fragile as love, the cracks don't just disappear. Sometimes they lead you down paths you never imagined walking. And sometimes they show you a version of yourself you never wanted to meet. I don't remember the exact moment everything fell apart, just the sound of something inside me shattering. It started with whispers, then questions, then headlines. Scandal in the Williams family. Siblings or soulmates? My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I'd turn it face down, but every vibration felt like a punch. I stopped answering calls. I stopped answering the door. I just stopped. Dad's face, once full of pride, twisted with rage and shame when he found out. Mom didn't say anything. She just looked at me like I was something broken she didn't know how to fix. Or didn't want to. Chloe, my fiancée, the girl I thought I'd build a life with, stood frozen at the altar rehearsal. Her bouquet hit the floor like a gunshot. She looked at me with betrayal in her eyes, like I had known all along, like I had played her. She left without a word. Later, her mom called my mom. There were threats of lawsuits, of defamation, of revenge. I didn't even argue. What was there to say? I didn't even know she was my sister until a week ago. None of us did, except maybe Madison. Madison, Chloe's best friend, the only one who stayed. She showed up the night the news broke, standing at my door with a duffel bag, a bottle of cheap wine, and a look in her eyes like she'd already made her decision. "I'm not letting you go through this alone," she said simply. I laughed, or maybe choked. I couldn't tell anymore. I don't even know who I am anymore. Mads. Then we'll figure out together. She moved in the next day, said it was temporary, said she'd sleep on the couch. She never made it past the first night. Not in that way. Nothing happened. But she sat beside me while I stared blankly at the TV, pretending to watch reruns of shows I didn't even recognize. She ordered takeout and made me eat, even when I told her I wasn't hungry. She made the silence less deafening. One night, a week in, we were sitting on the kitchen floor, splitting a pint of ice cream like kids who'd run away from home. She looked at me and said, "You still have a heartbeat, you know. You're not dead." "Feels like I am," I whispered. She reached out and touched my hand. Just held it. Simple, warm, real. And that's when something shifted. Her fingers lingered. My chest tightened. I looked at her, and for the first time in days, I wasn't drowning. There was a softness in her gaze I hadn't seen before. A question unspoken. And my body answered before my brain could catch up. I leaned in just slightly. She didn't pull away, but she didn't lean in either. Her eyes searched mine like she was looking for something, permission maybe, or a reason not to run. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Her expression changed. It was Chloe. She stood up quickly, brushed imaginary crumbs from her jeans. I should go to bed. She didn't look at me as she left the kitchen, and I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was heartbroken. Not anymore. but because for the first time, I wasn't sure who I was falling for. We were alone. Madison and I sat on the cold wooden floor of her apartment, surrounded by half-empty bottles of wine and the flickering light of a candle we forgot to blow out. The music had long stopped playing. The world outside had gone silent, but inside, everything buzzed. My hands were warm from the alcohol. My thoughts weren't steady. And Madison, she was just there, closer than usual, knees touching mine, eyes soft, vulnerable. We laughed about something. I don't even remember what. One of those drunk laughs that feels bigger than it is. I leaned back, and so did she. Our shoulders brushed. Our breathing slowed. Then came the silence. That weird, heavy kind of silence that doesn't beg to be broken. It just lingers. It wraps around you like a question you're too scared to ask out loud. Her gaze flickered to my lips, just for a second. But I saw it. And then, without a word, she leaned in. Her lips met mine. Soft, surprising. And for a second, I froze. But then I kissed her back. Not because I planned to. Not because I thought it was right. But because, in that moment, everything felt right. Her hands tangled in my hoodie. Mine found the side of her face. The kiss wasn't rushed. It wasn't messy. It was gentle, like we were afraid to break the spell. But spells don't last. Because suddenly, reality slammed into me. I pulled back, too fast. My head spinning, not from the wine, but from guilt. Madison blinked, lips slightly parted, like she hadn't expected me to stop. And maybe I hadn't expected her to start. We stared at each other. The air was thick. Neither of us spoke. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. Madison looked away first. She ran a hand through her hair and gave a nervous laugh. "That didn't happen," she whispered. I forced a chuckle. "Yeah, just the wine talking." We both nodded like idiots. Like if we nodded hard enough, we could convince ourselves it didn't mean anything. But it did. It meant something. I felt it in my chest, pounding behind my ribs like a secret trying to break free. We didn't speak about it after that. We sat in awkward silence for a while, pretending we were still drunk enough to forget. Eventually, she got up and disappeared into her room. I stayed there on the floor, staring at the empty bottle between us. Everything felt different. The next morning, she acted normal. Too normal. Coffee, small talk, eye contact that didn't last more than a second. She didn't bring it up, and I didn't dare to, but I kept replaying it, over and over. That kiss, the way she leaned in, the way she sighed against my mouth, the way it felt right and then wrong all at once. What were we even doing? We were supposed to be healing, helping each other through this mess of a life. We weren't supposed to blur lines. We weren't supposed to cross them. And yet she kissed me, and I kissed her back. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt her lips again. It was just one kiss. But now everything's different. And no matter how hard we try to pretend, we both remember. It was 2:37 a.m. when the beeping of the hospital machines finally started to feel like part of the background noise. Mom had just been stabilized. Again, her blood pressure had crashed out of nowhere, and for a full 30 seconds, I thought I was going to lose her. I was shaking. Cold sweat soaked through my shirt. My legs felt like they'd betray me if I tried to stand. I just sat there, gripping the edge of the chair like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. And Madison hadn't moved from my side. She should have gone home hours ago. Hell, she had one of the biggest interviews of her life first thing in the morning. A law firm in New York. Her dream job. She'd prepped for it for weeks. But when she saw me break down in that hallway, hands trembling, eyes wide with panic, she didn't even hesitate. She just took my hand and never let go. "I'm not going anywhere," she'd whispered. And she meant it. Now she sat across from me in the tiny waiting room, curled up in a stiff plastic chair, wearing a hoodie she must have grabbed from my car. Her eyes were closed, head resting awkwardly against the wall. But she wasn't asleep. I could tell by the way her thumb still brushed against mine every few minutes, like a quiet reminder that I wasn't alone. And that's when it hit me. Not in some cheesy slow motion, movie magic kind of way. No, it hit me like a punch straight to the chest. I loved her. I loved her. Not the way I used to think I loved the girls who posted cute selfies and texted back with heart emojis. Not like that hollow, fleeting high school crush stuff. This was deeper, real, heavy. I loved the way she said my name when no one else was listening. I loved how she never tried to fix my pain, just sat with me in it. I loved that she was willing to throw away the biggest opportunity of her career just to make sure I didn't spend the worst night of my life alone. My throat tightened, and I looked away, suddenly overwhelmed. What had I been so blind to all this time? People had warned me. My sister once told me, Madison's not just a friend, Noah. One day, you're going to see it. And when you do, it might be too late. Was it too late now? I stood and walked over to her slowly. She opened her eyes, sleepy but alert the second she saw my face. "Hey," she said, voice rough from exhaustion. "Is your mom?" "She's okay," I said quietly. "For now." She nodded. "I'm so glad." I stared at her for a long second, then sank down beside her. "You didn't have to stay." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "I know. You're going to miss your interview." She shrugged. "It's just a job." "No," I whispered. "It's your job. The one you've been dreaming about since you were 16. She looked away, blinking hard. "There'll be other interviews." "But there's only one me," I said, trying to joke, trying to lighten the weight in the air. She looked back at me slowly. "Exactly." I swallowed hard. My chest felt like it might collapse in on itself. "Nads, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you." Her eyes softened. "Maybe not, but I'm here anyway." I took her hand in both of mine and held it like a lifeline. "I think I've been in love with you for a while now. I didn't realize it until tonight." She stared at me, stunned into silence. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. The air between us changed. It felt warmer, closer, like the silence wasn't empty, it was full of all the words we hadn't dared to speak until now. But before she could answer, a nurse stepped into the hallway and called my name. I stood, heart racing, glancing back at Madison. She gave me a tiny nod. "Go." I turned toward the hallway, but I couldn't help wondering what she would have said if we'd had just a few seconds more. Would she have told me she felt the same? Or would she have reminded me that some moments are just that? Moments? I didn't know yet, but I was about to find out. I watched as Madison packed her things, the soft sound of clothes rustling in the suitcase filling the silence between us. The moment felt surreal, like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. A few weeks ago, we had kissed. A kiss that was supposed to mean something more than just a fleeting moment. But now, here we were, at the edge of an ending I couldn't seem to stop. Her eyes were distant, focused on the task at hand, not meeting mine. It hurt more than I thought it would. I had never imagined this moment would come, not like this. Her leaving, it wasn't just about a job. It was about everything we could have been. Or maybe everything we should have been, had I done things differently. "Madison," I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. "Please don't go." She froze for a second, but didn't turn around. The silence stretched out, heavy and unbearable. I took a step forward, desperate to make her understand. "I can't let you go. Not like this." My words felt broken, scattered like pieces of a puzzle I couldn't put together. The kiss, it wasn't just pity. I swear to God, it wasn't. Her shoulders slumped, and I saw her take a breath, as if steeling herself for something. When she finally turned to face me, her eyes were full of a kind of sadness I didn't know how to fix. "Maybe it was," she said quietly, her voice tinged with doubt. "Maybe I kissed you because I was afraid. Afraid of the things I've been running from, and afraid of what we could be." My heart dropped. I could see it in her eyes, the conflict, the fear. She was scared, but she wasn't running from me. She was running from us. "Don't do this, Madison," I begged, taking another step toward her. My hand reached out, but she took a step back, as if afraid to get any closer. "You're not the only one afraid. I'm scared too. I don't want to lose you." She bit her lip, looking away from me, as if the weight of her emotions was too much to bear. I don't want to be the person who drags you down. I can't stay here and keep wondering if everything we feel is just a mistake. If this, she gestured between us, her hands trembling slightly. If this is just a moment of weakness, then I'll never forgive myself for it. I shook my head, the words on the tip of my tongue, but they wouldn't come. I had no idea how to make her see the truth, how to convince her that what we shared wasn't something fleeting. She was leaving, and nothing I said would change that. I'll go with you, I said, almost desperate now, my voice cracking under the weight of it. I'll move to another state with you. We can figure this out together. Please, Madison, just don't leave me. She stared at me, her eyes searching mine, looking for something I couldn't give her. Then, slowly, she shook her head. I have to go. I have to do this for me. I can't keep hiding from what I really need. There it was, the finality in her words. She was gone, not physically yet, but in every other way. She had already decided. She had already left. I stood there, motionless, my chest tight with the sting of her absence. It was the kind of pain I had never felt before, this hollow ache in my heart. I watched as she zipped up her suitcase, not bothering to say goodbye. The finality of it all hit me like a ton of bricks. And in that moment, I realized I had lost her. My world was quieter now, not just because she was leaving, but because everything felt like it had stopped. The moments we had shared, the connection we had built. It was all slipping through my fingers, and no matter how much I tried to hold on, it was gone. I wanted to scream, to make her stay, but I couldn't. She had made up her mind, and nothing I said or did would change it. As she turned toward the door, I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the words didn't come. Instead, I stood there watching her leave, and I knew, deep down, I had lost her for good. She stepped into the hallway, her footsteps echoing in the empty room, and just like that, she was gone. But as I stood there, alone in the silence, I couldn't help but wonder, was this truly the end, or was it just the beginning of something even more devastating than I had imagined? It's funny how life works sometimes. You go about your day thinking things are fine, but then a simple moment, something small like opening an old drawer or finding a forgotten letter, can shift everything. That's exactly what happened to me. And it's a moment I'll never forget. Weeks had passed since I last saw her, but she was still on my mind. No matter how hard I tried to shake it off, her face lingered in my thoughts, like a shadow that wouldn't go away. I had always believed that we could be something, but I'd never realized just how deeply she had felt about me. Until I found that letter. It was tucked away in a shoebox, buried under some old college textbooks, with a faded envelope that carried her handwriting. Her name, Emily, written across the front in that same familiar script I had seen so many times. Almost like a signature I couldn't forget. But as I held the letter in my hands, the air seemed to thicken around me. I knew immediately this wasn't just another one of her casual notes or a random thinking of you message. This was different. I hesitated for a moment. I wasn't sure if I was ready to read it. I had never seen her this vulnerable before, and even though we'd known each other for years, there was always something she kept hidden, like a part of her that was never truly mine to know. But curiosity got the best of me. I carefully opened the envelope, the sound of the paper crinkling slightly in the silence, and then I began to read. I don't know how to say this, or if I ever will. You've been my best friend for as long as I can remember. You've always been there, through everything, the highs, the lows, the good and the bad. But what you don't know is that I've been in love with you for longer than I can even put into words. It's not something I planned or even wanted. It just happened. You've had your share of girlfriends, and I've watched you go through heartbreak after heartbreak. Each time, I've stood by you, pretending to be fine, pretending that it didn't hurt to see you with someone else. And with every tear, every heartbreak, I silently mourn the love I could never have. Maybe I wasn't the one for you. Maybe I'm not the one you need. But I couldn't stop myself from loving you. I should have told you sooner. I should have said something when I had the chance. But I never could. Maybe I was afraid. Afraid of losing you completely. afraid that things would never be the same again if I told you how I truly felt. But it's too late now. I've waited too long, and I don't think I can do it anymore. I don't expect you to feel the same way. I don't even know if you ever will. But I had to tell you. I had to let you know that I loved you. Always have. Always will. As I read those words, everything inside of me stopped. The world around me seemed to freeze, and I couldn't breathe. I thought I knew her. I thought we had shared everything. But this was something I had never seen coming. Emily, the one person I trusted most in this world, had been quietly suffering in the shadows for years. All this time, she had been hurting, loving me in silence while I flitted between relationships, oblivious to the pain she was carrying. I felt a wave of guilt rush over me. I had always seen Emily as my rock, my best friend, the one person who never asked for anything. But I had been blind. She had been right there in front of me, loving me without ever asking for anything in return. And I had missed it. All of it. I folded the letter carefully and held it to my chest. It wasn't just a confession of love. It was a plea, a cry for something more that I had failed to recognize. For years, I had been too caught up in my own drama, my own heartbreaks, to notice the one person who had always been there, waiting. And now, I couldn't shake the thought of her. I had to do something about it. I had to go to her, to let her know that I finally understood. I wasn't sure if it was too late, but I couldn't live with the regret of not trying. I quickly grabbed my phone and booked a flight. No plans, no backup, just a ticket to wherever she was. A surprise. I didn't know if she'd even want to see me. I didn't know if she'd welcome me or shut me out completely. But I had to try, because if I didn't, I might never forgive myself. I had promised myself I wouldn't do this. Not here, not now, not like this. But when I saw her, standing behind the counter of the little bookstore, her head buried in a stack of returns, it was like everything inside me shifted. There was no grand plan, no carefully timed speech. It was just her smile, the way her hair fell across her face, and the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears. I couldn't wait anymore. I had to do something. I couldn't let another second slip by, letting doubt and fear keep me from taking the one step that could change everything. The store was nearly empty, the afternoon lull giving me the privacy I craved. No customers, no distractions, just the two of us in this sacred space, surrounded by the smell of paper and coffee and the soft hum of the air conditioning. "Hey," I said, my voice trembling more than I expected. She looked up, her eyes softening when she saw me standing there, but a flash of confusion flickered across her face. "What's up? Everything okay?" she asked, tilting her head, clearly noticing the sudden shift in my demeanor. I didn't know what came over me, but the words I had been rehearsing for months, maybe even years, didn't come out the way I thought they would. I didn't have a ring. I didn't even have a plan. All I had was a rawness in my chest and the desperate need to tell her what she meant to me. I dropped to one knee. Her gasp was barely audible, but I saw the way her hands trembled as she stepped back, eyes wide. "Wait, were you?" she started, her voice rising in alarm. But I couldn't stop myself. The words tumbled out, jagged and unpolished. "I don't have a ring. I don't have a script, and I sure as hell don't have any idea what I'm doing. But I can't imagine my life without you. I can't keep waiting for the perfect moment, because every moment with you feels perfect, even if it's messy. Will you be with me? Forever?" My throat tightened. It wasn't how I imagined it. There was no grand gesture, no romantic setting, no applause or confetti. There was only the silence between us and the weight of my heart sitting in my chest, waiting for her response. I saw the tears before I heard them. They rolled down her cheeks, slow and steady, as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered, barely more than a breath. But it wasn't the kind of yes I had hoped for. It wasn't the joy-filled, victorious yes I had dreamed of. It was quiet. It was hesitant. It was a yes that was laced with something I couldn't quite place. Fear? Doubt? "I love you," she whispered, but even her words felt fragile, like she was holding something back. I stood, reaching out for her hand, but she pulled back just enough that it stung. "Why aren't you?" I trailed off, unable to finish the question. She wiped her tears, her eyes looking everywhere but at me. "I don't know," she said softly. "I want to say yes. I do, but I'm scared. Scared of what this will mean. Scared of ruining everything we've had." Her words hit harder than any rejection could. I looked at her, the woman I loved, and realized that I wasn't the only one who had been holding my breath. We had been pretending that everything was perfect, that we had time. But now, in the quiet aftermath of this moment, the truth hung in the air between us. Love wasn't enough to make it simple. It wasn't enough to wash away the fears we carried with us. Fears of change, of losing what we had built, of ruining each other with too much hope and not enough certainty. I took a deep breath, reaching out for her again, this time letting my hand hover just close enough to feel the warmth of her skin. "We don't have to figure it all out right now," I said, my voice steady, despite the uncertainty clawing at me. "But I can't go another day without knowing that you're mine, that we're in this together." She looked at me then, her eyes searching my face, as though trying to make sense of what I was asking her. And maybe I was asking too much. Maybe I wasn't ready for the answer she might give. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly, her voice trembling with a vulnerability I hadn't seen before. "Are you really sure about this?" I didn't have an answer, not the one she wanted, but I knew one thing. I couldn't walk away now. But as she pulled away, ever so slightly, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. And then the door swung open, a gust of wind followed by a sharp, familiar voice calling her name. The days leading up to our wedding should have been filled with excitement, but instead, they were drenched in uncertainty. Every time I looked at Madison, I felt this knot in my chest grow tighter. She was supposed to be my forever, my partner in all things, but something fell off. The wedding planning, once a dream, had become a battlefield. Nothing was going right. The venue wasn't ready. The caterers were behind schedule, and the cake. Don't even get me started on the cake. But that wasn't the problem. The real problem was Madison. She seemed distant, like she was a million miles away, even when she was standing right next to me. The girl who used to laugh at the smallest jokes now sat in silence, her eyes searching for something I couldn't give her. And I could feel it, that shift, that quiet desperation in her. It started with small questions, subtle doubts that burrowed deep into my mind. "Are we doing this out of love or loneliness?" she'd ask, her voice soft but laced with uncertainty. Each time, I'd brush it off, laugh it off, as if our love was some untouchable truth. But as the days wore on, her question began to eat at me. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I'd find myself staring at the invitations, wondering if we were doing this because we were genuinely ready for the next step, or if we were just running from the emptiness that seemed to surround us both. I tried to push the thoughts aside. I convinced myself we were just having pre-wedding jitters. After all, wasn't that what everyone said? A little cold feet before the big day was normal, right? But no matter how hard I tried to deny it, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't meant to be. Madison kept asking, pushing, questioning everything, until it felt like the walls were closing in on me. "Do you love me because you need me or because you want me?" she'd ask one night, her voice cracking as she spoke. And I had no answer for her. I could feel the tension in the air every time we were together. She was pulling away from me, and I didn't know how to fix it. We'd talk for hours, our conversations more like interrogations, as we tried to unpack what was happening between us. But nothing seemed to make sense. She was slipping through my fingers, and I couldn't stop it. The night before everything fell apart, we had a long conversation in the kitchen. The lights were dim, casting shadows across her face. She looked at me, tears welling in her eyes, and asked one last question that sent a chill through my bones. "Do you still see me as the woman you want to spend your life with?" I didn't know how to answer. How could I? The truth was, I wasn't sure anymore. I promised her everything would be okay, that we just needed time to breathe. But when I woke up the next morning, she was gone. No note, no goodbye, just silence. The weight of it hit me like a freight train. I searched the house, her side of the closet, her things scattered across the living room, but nothing was left behind. I checked her phone. No messages, no missed calls. She had vanished without a trace. The only thing left were the remnants of our love, scattered like broken pieces of glass. I stood there, frozen in place, my heart pounding in my chest. My mind raced with a million questions. Where had she gone? Why hadn't she said goodbye? And then a thought gripped me. What if I was too late? What if this was her way of telling me we were over before I had the chance to realize it? My stomach churned. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to lose her. But maybe it was already too late. As the silence stretched, I couldn't shake the fear that this was just the beginning of something far worse. The phone rang. I picked it up without thinking. My breath caught in my throat when I heard her voice on the other end. But it wasn't the Madison I knew. It was a voice filled with panic, urgency, something dark. "Don't come looking for me," she whispered, before the line went dead. What had happened to her? What was she running from? I had no idea, but I knew one thing for sure. This was just the start of a nightmare I was unprepared for. The treehouse hadn't changed much. Sure, the paint was peeling and the floor creaked louder than I remembered, but it still smelled like pine wood and bubblegum, just like it did when we were 12. I hadn't been up there in years. Not since we grew apart, and then somehow ended up getting married. I don't even know what drew me back that day. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the silence between us that had grown too loud. Or maybe it was just the need to remember the version of us before life complicated everything. That's when I saw it, half hidden under a dusty cushion we used called a throne. A leather-bound journal, worn, cracked at the edges. Her handwriting etched across the front in faded silver ink. If I disappear, don't come looking. Just read. My stomach twisted. My hands trembled as I opened the first page. Dear me, or maybe dear you. I don't even know anymore. I've loved you since the day you gave me the bigger slice of pizza and told me I was your favorite person in the world. I laughed like it was a joke, but I kept the napkin you wiped your greasy hands on that day. Yeah, that's how far gone I was. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. You married me because I was safe, because I was there, because I knew all your quirks and your childhood trauma and how you take your coffee. But you never looked at me the way you looked at her, or them, or anyone really. My heart cracked. She knew. Of course she did. I wake up every day next to you and thank every possible universe that you said, I do. But I'm terrified that one day you'll open your eyes, look at me, and wonder why the hell you married your best friend instead of someone you actually fell for. Tears burned down my cheeks. I couldn't stop them even if I wanted to. How long had she been carrying this? How many nights had she laid beside me, pretending everything was fine, while this fear slowly carved holes into her heart? I don't need roses. I don't need grand gestures. I just need you to choose me. Not because I've always been here, but because you finally see me. I closed the journal for a second. The wood around me blurred through the fog of my tears. I thought I was a good husband. I thought showing up was enough. But I'd been standing still while she gave me everything she had, quietly, patiently, without ever asking for anything back. And I'd taken all for granted. Every smile, every sacrifice, every time she picked me over herself. I thought she'd always be there. But this journal, it didn't read like someone who planned to stay much longer. I flipped to the final page, praying for something, anything, that would give me hope. If you're reading this, it means I'm finally brave enough to let go. Or maybe you're finally brave enough to see me. I pressed the journal to my chest, like holding it close would somehow pull her back to me. But the truth was, I had no idea where she was. I had no idea if I was too late. And for the first time in my life, I was terrified she might never come back. The chapel was full of people. Faces I recognized, faces I barely remembered, smiling, whispering, waiting. The air was thick with perfume, anticipation, and tension I couldn't quite name. But she wasn't there. I stood at the altar for what felt like hours. My tie was suffocating me. My palms were ice cold, and every tick of the clock drilled deeper into my chest. The whispers turned to murmurs. The best man tried cracking a joke to distract me. I didn't hear it. My heart was too busy screaming. And then the doors creaked open. She walked in, calm, poised, stunning in a simple ivory dress that looked like it belonged to a dream. But her eyes were fire. She walked up to me slowly, heels clicking on marble, and the crowd went dead silent. Even the organist froze. She looked at me, not through me, not past me, but right at me, and then she said it, loud enough for the entire church to hear. I'm not here to be your backup plan. I felt the ground tilt under my feet. I'm here to be your forever, but only if you see me as your first choice. I didn't know I could cry while smiling, but I did. I took her hands, those small, warm hands I used to hold when we were just kids sneaking sodas at the corner store. I took a breath, then another, and then I spoke. No script, no rehearsals, just truth. I spent so long chasing shadows, people who didn't see me, people I thought I needed to be complete. But the truth is, I was whole every time I was with you. You made me laugh when I wanted to disappear. You believed in me when I was a mess. You were my constant when everything else fell apart. And yeah, maybe I was too blind to see it back then, but I see it now, not as a second chance, not as a consolation, but as the only woman who ever really knew me and stayed anyway. I don't want perfect. I want real. I want you. So, if you'll still have me, let's do this. Let's jump, fall, fly, whatever it takes. And just like that, she smiled. That full body, earth-shaking smile that made me forget how to breathe. We said our vows. We kissed. We danced like the world might end that night. And for 3 years, it felt like it never would. We traveled. We fought about paint colors. We kissed in grocery store aisles. We watched sunsets from rooftops and made pancakes at midnight. She was my best friend. And now she was my wife. Until one morning, she was gone. I woke up to cold sheets and silence. At first, I thought she went out for coffee. But hours passed. Then I found a letter. It was tucked under my favorite mug. In her handwriting, she wrote, "If you're reading this, I'm probably not beside you anymore. Please don't be angry. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to love a version of me that was fading. I wanted to be loved as I was alive, vibrant, full of sarcasm and bad puns. I've known for a while. The diagnosis came before the wedding. I almost walked away, but then I saw the way you looked at me when you said forever. And I knew I wanted that, even if my forever was shorter than yours. So I stayed, and I don't regret a single second. I broke. I shattered. Because even in death, she was protecting me, shielding me from pain, giving me only joy, only memories laced with laughter and love. I walk through our home now, and I swear I still hear her humming in the kitchen. Sometimes I say things out loud like she's still listening. Maybe she is. I still wear my ring. People ask why. I just smile, and I say, she was my best friend. Now she's my wife, and always will be.